Big Tuesday coming up in this town. Going to be going to the polls. I know we love those April ballots, but guess what? There's some big stuff on the ballot, including what I would say is the future safety of Kansas City with what is being dubbed the jail tax by some on the ballot coming up here on Tuesday. The mayor of Kansas City, Quinton, is here, and he kind of stole my thunder. I just saw he posted on X that he is endorsing this. And Mr. Mayor, we appreciate you being here. You're probably going to get some flack from those to your far, far left on this front, but why are you endorsing what is being dubbed the jail tax on Tuesday? Do we have them?
Apologies, I was muted quietly listening to the show.
Oh, okay. All right. So now you've got the floor. Why are you a yes on the tax?
I think it's vital for the future of our community that we be safe. We can have all the World Cups in the world, all of the football success, the population growth, housing affordable and otherwise throughout the city. But if people can't feel safe calling 911, if people don't know that they have officers that are going to respond, if people don't know that we don't have the equipment that we need, then we're not going to survive in the way we need to. This tax is responsible, even on the jail point, frankly. We have right now 90% of domestic violence offenders in Kansas City proper, south of the river, go through municipal court. When our bed spaces fill up in Vernon County, and thank you, Nevada, Johnson County, Missouri, thank you, Warrensburg, what we deal with is a situation where we have people that are turning back onto the streets and go back to the homes where they were just offended. That is horrifying. That is not something that should happen in a major city. And this is, I think, a very reasonable investment, a tax renewal, to say that we're going to commit to being safer. We're going to work with municipal court, work with detention, KCPD, and KCFD to make sure that this community can be as safe as it needs to be and align all of the great stuff we're doing with the important, I think, prerogative, which is public safety being important for the future of Kansas City.
So right now, and someone asked this on the show last hour, they said, okay, if $250 million is going to go to fund the construction of a city jail, where has this money, because it's a sales tax renewal, where has it been going? And is there a risk that something does not get the funding it needs as you use $250 million to fund the jail build?
So the short answer is no. The last time we ran this tax, we invested in police stations throughout the city. I believe we replaced 5 out of 6 of our patrol stations. We renovated the Kansas City Police Department headquarters. We built a new police training facility up north. We have funded radio systems. We have done a lot. And because this is an infrastructure tax, this is not the sort of thing that goes to any touchy-feely idea or topic that we come up with. This is pretty brass tacks. It goes to equipment, it goes to infrastructure, it goes to building things, and then we have to figure out largely what are the operational expenses all around it, how do we address all of the other issues that may be tangential or part of public safety. And so, no, this is not going to the Quinton Lucas or someone to my left dream about tomorrow plan. This is instead saying, we got to have stuff. We got to have, and you know what, and I'll admit, and people have knocked me, I'm getting hit from left and right, but that's normal for mayors. I evolved on this issue too. I'm somebody who wanted us to build a jail in collaboration with Jackson County years ago. I still think there could be cost savings there. But as that idea petered out over time, I think I look here today and say, as a father of 2 young kids in this community, what do I want for safety? If there is somebody who's causing a harm in our community, and the first stop is usually municipal court, and if they need to sit down for a few days or weeks, if there's somebody that needs counseling, mental health, or otherwise, right, we need to make sure that we address that. What we can't do is what I'm hearing right now, write a darn ticket to somebody who's arrested for, let's say, trespass or stealing in a store or hitting their spouse, and then just say, all right, here's your ticket. Well, don't do it again, but when we arrest you the 100th time, maybe something will change. That's not right, and this community deserves better.
If it passes, what is a timeline on actually having this jail up and running?
Passes, the timeline for the jail is actually probably the most straightforward of everything. We have an RFP process out now for a builder of the jail, so we would expect to be able to enter into that contract within weeks. You probably need about a 2-year construction time frame at least. We do have the land. You do land clearance. So doing the math, unfortunately, that gets us after the World Cup, but you'd be looking at early 2027, maybe the latest summer 2027 is when you're looking to build. And, of course, anything that slows that down along the way, big debates, other issues and costs can be an issue, but I think that's the time frame we're working with.
Now, if this gets passed by the voters, could the city council say, would it have to go to a vote of the city council to use the money for a jail, or is it guaranteed to be used for a jail if it passes on Tuesday?
It does have to go to a vote of the city council. I have absolutely no concerns on that, though. All but one city council member voted to put this on the ballot. All but one city council member, I think, has shared the need for a detention facility. So I do not expect in any way a bait and switch that tries to suggest something otherwise. Instead, I think what you will see is what we've talked about. We'll put money into the jail. We'll put money into 911 equipment to the fullest extent we can to make sure issues are addressed there. And we have talked about a police facility in connection with this. Those are the clear brass tacks. I know people are throwing up a bunch of other things and all of that. My commitment, and I'll only be around now for about 2.5 years of this, we're going to make sure we get those things done, or at least started. We get ground broken on them. And then, certainly in the years ahead, City Council has a chance to address those issues. But at the very least, for my successors, we'll have a detention facility, something that I did not have when I came into this position, either as mayor or City Council. We will have answers to the 911 crisis. And I think that's going to make our community better and safer.
Mayor Lucas is on KCMO. So even though the Urban Council has come out against this on Tuesday, they say the measure is badly planned, fiscally irresponsible, unsustainable, and unjust to the poor. You're not concerned about political posturing from folks who may look to be your successor, looking for certain influences around the community. You're not concerned that that could be problematic here with groups like the Urban Council coming out against this tax?
Urban Council has been pretty much against most things regularly. I say this with the greatest respect to them, but, I think that, they don't necessarily kind of run the game on how these things will be decided long term. What I believe is this. Kansas City at its core is a town that is common sense, right? And I think that time and again, we typically elect moderates. Neither Sly James nor myself nor Mark Funkhauser, for that matter, came from some extreme wing of the Democratic Party. You have people in our electorate broadly who understand the need for public safety. We have strong disagreements with the state of Missouri on what that means. But I think actually to those who believe that, we are in some way incapable of controlling ourselves, like we're a bunch of juveniles, I think you'll see on Tuesday that the people of Kansas City support this sales tax, that ultimately they say, we do need to make sure that detention, rehabilitation is an important part of what we do. And I think the Kansas Cityans will say that regardless of some of those who are making noise now. Mm-hmm. This is not racist, by the way. Let me say this. I know you deal with this all the time. A heck of a lot of our victims are black, right? There's this pretend world we live in that black offenders are separated from black victims, right? These are crimes against black people too. So when I hear people who are talking about that this will be inherently racist or terrible, all of that, who I'm worried about right now? A black woman who's getting beat up in Kansas City, a black family that's living in fear. Right? I worry about all of them, but for those groups that try to tear us apart on things racial on these issues, yeah, okay. Assuming arguendo, you're right, there'd be a lot of black offenders because we have a lot of black victims in our community that we need to make sure we stand up for too.
Well, let's be honest, 75% of the homicides last year were against black men or black women, and it's only about 30% of the entire city. So this is doing far more for the working poor in largely black communities than it is the folks on Ward Parkway.
Oh, no, that's exactly right. Here's the thing, right? I have people, and you heard it last summer, and I think you had to balance it in a way that a lot of us did. We had a lot of people in Brookside and other areas, and I appreciate them and love them being Kansas Cityans, who were hearing about crime, were thinking about it anew with small business burglaries and break-ins, and it became a big issue. There are people, however, and I respect all of them, but there are people every day who are living with this reality in their community. And so to the people who say, no, this is nothing but terrible, this is going to harm black and brown communities, I say the exact opposite. What it's actually doing is making sure that people can live safely there, that investment dollars can go there more easily, and more than anything, that frankly, we're standing up for public safety everywhere in the city. I agree with people who get mad who say, wow, y'all weren't doing anything till Brookside had a bunch of stuff, and then you're talking property crimes. Okay, I'll acknowledge that. Then what are we going to do to make sure the whole city's safer? One thing is to make sure there are consequences for people. This allows for those consequences. This allows for us to make sure that we are, I think, standing up for victims. And that's why I think you're going to see a majority of Kansas City and support this on Tuesday, notwithstanding different views on policing in Kansas City and America and incarceration. And in some ways, those people are my fellow travelers. But I sure as heck do care about the fact that folks who are being victimized in our community, no matter their race, but a lot of them happen to be black, I hope that they can have justice too, and I think that's what this is about.
Last thing, Mr. Mayor, for this week, the future of the city manager role. I know that obviously Brian Platt is out. What do you see a search for the next city manager looking like? Will it be largely internal? Will you do a national search? And what is your timeline on that?
I expect, given the amount of time that remains in this mayor and council term, that it's largely an internal discussion. That being said, I've already received communications from a few outsiders in the region who have said we'd like to be considered. We're going to be fair. We're going to be unbiased, and we're going to look for people who can deliver the core services that Kansas City needs. That's what I care about the most. There's a lot of noise all around everything, but that's where we are. That's how we made the choice before. That's what we're going to be doing going forward.
And I actually misspoke when I said that was the last question. This is the last question. I need to also get your response to the Jackson County ruling this week that, of course, says that the property tax assessments need to be rolled back to a cap of 15% from 2023. I mean, this is going to be one big mess. It is one big mess. What do you think the fallout is from this? And how do you, as obviously the mayor of a city that is the biggest city in Jackson County, will handle this going forward?
We're going to look to comply with the law. And so when we set our rates, we're going to look to the guidance from our courts to make sure that we roll back to the extent necessary. You know, a lot of people have discussed and debated this issue for some time. I think we in Kansas City have been very respectful in letting the process play out. But this has been a hard time for a lot of Jackson Countyans. So I hope ultimately there's clarity. I hope the county makes a decision very soon on whether to appeal or not. I think the court was fairly clear here, so the suggestion might be not to do so. And I think we need to get moving forward on how we can ensure that something like this, the incredible changes, the quick shifts that negatively impacted a lot of people, how we can figure out that doesn't happen again.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We always appreciate the time, and have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Hey, take care.
All right. That is Quinton Lucas on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.